Hey, it's Fox from Inferno Fox Gaming. In celebration of Nihom Falcom releasing the newest entry in the Ys series in North America this week, as of the recording of this video, we're going to be ranking each of the mainline entries in this series via a tier list. And when I say we, I am happy to say that I'm joined by the excellent YouTube content creator Shinky JRPGs. Shinky is a member of a group of other great content creators here on YouTube called Super Retro Force. He also produces excellent JRPG content up to and including reviews of the newest Ys entry, as well as a great video advising where to start in the Ys series. We're going to have links for both of those in the description below, so make sure to check them out as well as Shinky's channel and subscribe to him once you've finished watching this video. Thank you again for joining me here today, Shinky.
I'm happy to be here.
And yeah, we're really happy to have you. And before we jump right into the tier ranking, just a couple little notes here. We're not going to be ranking two entries in the Ys series, and that's going to be Ys Strategy for the DS and Ys versus Trails in the Sky. Ys Strategy for the DS really is more like a tactical RPG and really sort of strays off the beaten action RPG path that is Ys. And Ys versus Trails in the Sky is not any sort of RPG game. It's a fighting game. So again, both of those really are like spin-offs versus the mainline series that we're going to be talking about. So let's go ahead and jump right in and begin with the first game that I'm going to rank. And this one is just called Ys Origin, but I like to consider this Ys Zero because this story really specializes in as a prequel to the first two Ys series games. This released in December 2006, first but on the PC in Japan only, then went to consoles in 2017. So Ys Origin, what are your thoughts and feelings about this, Shanky?
I really like Ys Origin. It has my favorite style of Ys in the Napishtim engine, and it's nice to get a little bit of a base on the whole universe of Ys and how everything started out. Like, just the whole gameplay style of it, I love it. This might come from Oath and Felghana being my first game in the series, but it plays so smoothly. So, for me, for that one in particular, I would probably put it as an A. It's not quite up there, as in like the most perfect of perfect Ys games, but I really, really just enjoy the whole story, and the fact that you have several different characters and seeing several different points of view really gives you like a big grand scope of it.
Yeah, I can get totally behind that. Just being able to play as the two characters and then a surprise third character as you're exploring the world of Ys that I think it was 600 years in the past or 600 years before the events.
700.
700, see? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really cool meeting characters like Fina and everything like that we know from the first Ys game. And
Yeah.
I really like the Napishtim engine as well. I would probably, me personally, I would say B plus to A minus. So I think I'm good with A. The only thing that I would maybe ding points on is, and this might sound like sacrilege, but the soundtrack. I feel like Ys Origin out of a lot of the Ys games is a bit of a weaker one for the music. But I'm good with it being a solid A. I can get
I'd
down.
agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that on the soundtrack, because the soundtrack, like you have the Ys series in general, and the soundtrack is phenomenal for like almost every single game in the series. So even saying that Origin has a weaker soundtrack when it comes to the series doesn't mean it's bad.
Not at
It's
all.
still fantastic. It's just when you compare it to the rest of the series, it just comes as a little bit lower. But it's still great. It's just not phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really enjoyed there's a theme that plays right off the bat, and that's the Dharm Tower theme. And it's one that it felt a little muted compared to how it was when I experienced it from Ys 1. And speaking of Ys 1, let's go ahead and rank Ys 1. And I have purposely separated Ys 1 and 2, even though again they are part of a larger combined story and was only separated due to the developer decision. It really is like one game. But again, I've separated it because it has some unique aspects to it, such as the fact that you only go to level 10, going from 1 to 10, and the iterative level increases you get are extremely strong, and some very, 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 very frustrating bosses. Would you agree with me on that, Shinky?
Vampire comes to mind. And from what I understand, I haven't played the PC Engine version of it. I've only played the Chronicles Plus version of it. But on the Chronicles Plus version, so I was like, hey, this is a game I can play at a ridiculous frame rate. If you try and fight the final boss on a really high frame rate, it makes it all that much more difficult.
Yes.
Even playing at like 30 or 60, it's still really, really difficult. But from my understanding on the TurboGrafx, it wasn't originally that hard. It just got, like, the difficulty increase was ridiculous when it came to the Chronicles version.
Yes, that was the one that I played too, and it's essentially the DVD logo fight, because Dark Fact is literally just bouncing around on the screen like the DVD logo, and
yeah,
I can't tell you how many times that I died on that. The vampire, the vampire fight, I died a couple times. That one is legitimately hard, but you just got to be like super precise with your bump.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, the DVD logo, Dark Fact, that was tough. One thing though with this game, the soundtrack is phenomenal. I mean,
that was the
banger
first
after
thing
banger.
that got me into this. Like that, honestly, like Ys as a whole, the soundtrack is what draws me towards it.
Oh my
I
gosh.
love, like, just throughout the whole series, the soundtrack, it gets better and better. And for Ys 1 specifically, like First Steps Towards War it's peak Falcom right there. Like, it's fantastic. It's just the standard world map theme, and it's great.
Yes, I absolutely concur. Like, just so many great tracks on that. I want to put this as an A, but below Origin. Nothing wrong with the bump combat, in my opinion. It served it well, even with the Chronicles version, and the aesthetics and the graphics and everything like that. Phenomenal, fantastic. I still like the Napishtim method of combat, but for Origin, I feel it serves it better than the Ys 1. And I would almost say I would like a high B, just because of the bosses and the uneven like leveling and everything.
I would put it same, or I would put it same as A.
Okay.
But below Origins. Like, it's not quite a B, but it's not quite as high as I'd rank Origins.
That's totally fair. And if we're talking about a game that I think would sandwich Origin, you might think I'm crazy. I think Ys 2 sandwiches Origin, because the weaknesses that we had with Ys 1 are gone with Ys 2. Plus, the soundtrack, still top quality, high quality.
Very good.
Oh my gosh, phenomenal. And the level progression is actual. Like, when you go from 1 to 2, it doesn't make you overpowered. You can go, what was it, level up to level 50 or 40 in Ys 2?
I think it was 40.
Okay.
But like, just Ys 1 and 2 in general, like, I know a lot of people get kind of scared away from the games because of the bump system. Be like, oh, this is weird. Like, I've played Hide Glide. I don't want to do another bump system type thing. But it's nothing the same,
No.
right? Like it feels good. Like, as long as you're not, square head on to the enemy, it's going to be fine. Like, yes, it adds a little bit too much precision sometimes, but just the bump system is great. It's actually, after the Napishtim engine, is the one that I prefer. Wow. So, yeah, we'll get to that later. But, yeah, it's really, it feels good. And, like, even then, considering, like, Ys 1 and 2 is an action RPG from 1989, right? So we didn't have action RPGs before that. The closest thing we had was Zelda. So having Ys 1 and 2 with this bump system, and it feels good.
It does when you really get that just the right correct angle on enemies and bosses and everything. You're right. It really feels good once you can finally get that time and time again.
Yeah, I struggled with it at first, but after I got used to it, I was like, this is great.
Now we're going to exit the bump system momentarily for the next couple entries, literally a couple, and we're going to talk about the next numbered entry, which is Ys 3 Wanderers from Ys. With this one, this was actually my introduction to the Ys series back in, if you can believe it, 1991, when I played it with my older brother when we used to rent it from our local video vault. And we played it from start to finish, and some way somehow managed to beat that last boss where it's like you have to be like crazy precise and have the right amount of ring power and a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And the idea of it, the idea of Ys 3 Wanderers from Ys, pen to paper sounds cool. You know, you're essentially like Zelda 2 Adventure of Link. You know, you got the 2D side scrolling and everything like that, but the execution, man, Shinky, I'm gonna say, was awful. The only good thing, the two good things with the Wanderers from Ys is honestly some of the cool anime cutscenes and by far top tier soundtrack.
So I haven't played this particular version of Ys 3. Like, I've played very little of it. Like, I want to say like an hour or two. I got that far into it and I'm like, screw this game. I hate it. It's terrible. It's unfair. The difficulty is ridiculous.
Yes.
But it's like, it's not fun to me. Like, that's not to say like I say, oh yeah, Ys as a whole is a great series. It is, once you get to the modern versions of the games. The original versions of the games are like, this doesn't go for the whole series, but for this one in particular, it's just not an enjoyable time. I'm sure back in, what was that, 1993 it came out?
It's like originally it came out in Japan in 89, but I know there was an NES, a Genesis, and a Super Nintendo version. The Super one, I think, came out in late 91 or early 92.
Okay, yeah. So I played it way back. I think I played it in like 96 or something like that. I know the N64 was out at the time, but when I played it, I was like, I can't do this. I'm glad I only rented it because this drove me up the wall.
So would you be fair to say that this earns its D?
It gets a C rank, I would say.
Okay, because of the soundtrack.
Yes, because of the soundtrack, and I have something in particular that I want to say for the D ranking, and it's not as bad as that.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the remake of Wanderers from Ys, and my immediate reaction, my gut reaction is putting it into the S tier.
Yes.
I have a lot of positive thought with Oath and Felghana. Tell me, Shinky, why you believe this is an S tier entry.
Okay, so first thing we already covered, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is amazing. In fact, I'm like 90% sure the Valestein Castle theme is my #1 played song on Spotify.
Yes, it is absolutely phenomenal.
It is so good. And they took the story of Ys 3, which was good in its own right, and they expanded it. And the exploration is like 100 times better. The gameplay is great. It's difficult. It's commonly known as one of the more difficult modern games in the series. But it's fantastic all around. Like, it's short. It's perfect if you're into speedrunning. It's perfect if you just enjoy, like, it's like action, arcadey hack and slash action, which is great. And it's just, honestly, I can't say anything bad about it, because as far as I'm concerned, if it comes to Ys, that's a perfect Ys game. Like, I actually just finished playing through the game on the PS5 like not even a week ago.
Nice.
And it's like, there's 6 playthroughs. I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to platinum this game. 6 playthroughs. You don't realize how short a game is until you run through on New Game Plus and just skip everything. You can finish that game in less than an hour.
Wow.
It's very short. If you're, like, that's, carrying over your level and don't really have to do any exploring, but that's another thing with the game too. Like, there's a lot of nooks and crannies, and I love the Metroidvania style of it.
Yes,
like the fact that,
absolutely.
Like, okay, so you get a fireball. Okay, now I can go light lanterns and get into a cave I couldn't get into before. Or, okay, so now I have wind magic and I can use that to jump gaps I couldn't jump before. Or then you get double jumps and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's got everything. And I'm so happy we're getting the remaster of the remake localized next year. That's a day one buy for me.
Yeah, I pre-ordered the collector's edition of that on the Nice America store. Like that was a no-brainer for me too. For me, so like I said, Wanderers from Ys was my first Ys game. When I went through my gaming midlife crisis in 2000, I went through the Dragon Quest series, and then Ys was next. I'm like, Oath and Felghana, that's a remake from Wanderers from Ys. I remember playing that. And seeing like so Adol's got this cute like red hair, little shield with the sword icon, and then I'm in this cave, and like there's this cute little adult icon, and this really badass guitar solo going with the cave music, and I'm like, this is freaking awesome. And the sword play, the exploration is just like so responsive, top notch. Music's phenomenal, sound effects are great. The only thing that I could possibly ding Oath and Felghana for is maybe not having the ability to use medicine or like elixirs or items or anything in battle. My first experience with Oath and Felghana was literally a bar to bar race to the finish. You got the enemy or like the boss battle bar, you got my energy bar, and who's gonna deplete first, because that's gonna determine things.
Well, yeah, like the bosses too. Like, it's nice because you're gonna die a couple times because you're gonna learn their patterns. You're gonna learn everything like that, and every boss that you fight, it's gonna come down to the wire, right? And it's nice because I love having bosses like that where if you die against the boss, you don't feel like it's unfair.
Yes.
Because you didn't understand, or oh no, I misjudged a jump or something like that.
And coming from the guy who played through the entirety of Wanderers from Ys, where so many of the bosses were unfair and the hitboxes are stupid, and just some of the ridiculousness of that.
And all you're equipped with is a toothpick.
Oh my gosh.
Just swing it randomly, hoping you actually hit them.
And getting rid of that stupid ring system. Excuse me, like that's just, I was so glad to have experienced Oath and Felghana. We're going to move on to the many games, though, of Ys 4. And this is something that Shinky and I both, we're going to be a little bit weaker on, insofar as we've got limited experience with the Super Famicom version of Ys 4, Mask of the Sun, and the TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine CD version of Dawn of Ys. And I think, call me crazy, Shinky, but I think we should probably just default put these at the B tier and put Dawn of Ys ahead of Mask of the Sun, because I have heard Dawn of Ys is the better game, even though Mask of the Sun became canon until Memories of Celceta released. Any thoughts, any disagreement with me on that?
Honestly, I haven't played Dawn of Ys or Mask of the Sun. I haven't had the chance to. I really want to go and get a TurboGrafx or something or like the PC Engine for it, so I can play Dawn of Ys, because I hear it's amazing.
Yes.
Like, I've never had the chance, even if it's finding an emulator or something for it. I want the chance to play it, but like, I never got the chance to get a PC Engine. It was before, my time, before I really got into RPGs, because that wasn't until my teens, right? So I really didn't get the chance, but I really want to go back and play them. because like I've played every modern game, but I want to go back and see like where the series began, right? And like how it felt to play the original versions. Like from my understanding, I think it was Dawn of Ys is where Adol gets married and has a child. And then in Memories of Celceta came out and they're like, you know what? No. His only true wife is Adventure.
Yeah, because I remember seeing endings, like the ending online where it shows, and I think it's very heavily implied that it's Lilia that Adol ends up marrying. Lilia
Yeah.
being from the second Ys series game, and you very clearly see Lilia with a small red-haired child. Like, okay, you're pretty much
Adol did
hammering
a
that.
little something, something. Yeah, pretty much.
So. But let's talk about the fourth one, of that being Memories of Celceta. This is an interesting one because we're getting into the party system where there's 6 characters total that are playable. Obviously, Adol. All of the versions of Ys 4 have Karna, because Karja is Ys 10. So
Yes.
Karna is Memories of Celceta. A potential blonde-haired female hero whom could be a love interest for Adol, among other, and Eldiel as well, as like the angel type figure that ends up being like sort of like the bad guy. Um,
Yeah. And this is the game where Adol is officially considered an adventurer, which is something I always found really odd, where he needs to have some, god deity be like, you know what, we bestow upon you the title of adventurer. Like, that's when I first heard that, I was like, huh? That is such a weird plot point. Like, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to be an adventurer until we say so.
like, hadn't he had already taken like a number of adventures even up to that point?
Yeah, because Ys 4 so Memories of Celceta takes place after Ys 10, which takes place after Ys 2. So it's his third adventure.
Yep.
I'm combining 1 and 2 together, but yeah, so it's like, okay, so he's already been to a couple other places. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, so I'm not sure how like I felt about that. And my big thing with Memories of Celceta, it had one of the worst endings I've seen in a video game,
It felt
where
like it was tacked on.
yes, and it's like, really, so you're not going to give us a definitive thing to say whether or not Dawn of Ys or Mask of the Sun was the correct way. You're just going to say, okay, so the story ended and it's a book and Adol's an adventurer, and then that's it. Like, what?
Yeah,
There's
well, that's the thing with Ys 2, right? Like, Ys is every adventure of his it's always told in the perspective of after Adol passes away at the age of 63, somebody reading his adventure journals, right? So, I mean, it is a book, and that's why every game starts usually along the lines of something like, have you heard of the adventures of Adol Christin? Right? Because it's somebody reading his adventures years after he's passed. So, like, I get that, but I mean, I would have liked to have an actual ending.
Yeah, because there were solid conclusions after Ys 2. I remember Wanderers even had that. Oath and Felghana sure did, and really
Yes.
all of the other entries had that. And so Celceta, it not having that was just a real bummer.
Yeah.
Besides that, I did think like the action and everything, the art, the gameplay was, and then the music was phenomenal. There's a part of me that the ending could bump it from an A to a B plus. But what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
So, of the party game systems, Memories in Celceta is bottom of the barrel. Like, it's not a bad game, but it's not that great. It's definitely the weakest of all the party games. Like, you have some characters that are incredibly overpowered, but then you have
Yes.
some characters that are like, why? And then there's just the party system as a whole. I absolutely despise the party system when it comes to Ys games because I hate being forced to use a certain party. But it's like, I don't know, it's kind of weak on that hand, but like I don't like being forced to have, somebody that does pierce damage, somebody that does slash damage, somebody that does strike damage. Like that goes throughout all of the party games. So I mean, like, it's not bad. It's just, I would say B. I'd give it a B minus after these four. I mean, I haven't played them, but I would give it a B minus.
Okay. I'm gonna put it between them if you don't mind.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. That way, we have a good, solid platform to where we think 4 is at, and I bet you any individuals whom have played these, maybe not the dawn of Ys, but I think we've got a good background for 4. But now let's talk about one of the best of the Ys games, and that certainly is not Ys 5, the Lost Kefin Kingdom of Sand. This
you get a D.
Immediately a D.
Ys 5 is like if you got an Ys game off of Temu. It doesn't feel like an Ys game. It is Ys in name only.
Because it's essentially how Wanderers is. It's just, but it feels clunky, boxy, and it doesn't have a great soundtrack.
If you didn't tell me the title, and it didn't have Adol, if you hit the name Adol, you didn't tell me the title of the game, I wouldn't think it was an Ys game.
No.
It looks and plays like a Zelda. The music is probably the worst there ever has been. It doesn't have the same quality. I mean, from my understanding, they outsourced the music to somebody else for Ys 5. And then, just the hitboxes are ridiculous. The magic is useless.
Yes.
And feels like it's not even there. And it's just, the story is still okay. And they do go back to it in Ys 9. But it's just, it seems so, it just doesn't feel like an Ys game. I still suggest people play it for the story and to see the low point. In fact, that's why I said it's probably one of the better to play it the earliest in the series. Or maybe after 1 or 2 other games, just so that, it doesn't completely turn you off from the series. But because it's so bad.
I think another reason it belongs here is that it very nearly killed the series. It very nearly did.
Yes.
And it's definitely one of those entries where it's almost seemed like it was imitating a lot of stuff that just wouldn't. And even some of the menus, it felt kind of like Final Fantasy VI with the how the menus kind of felt and moved. And it's like, this doesn't feel
very funky.
Yeah, and it just felt very slow. And with this coming out in December '95, and it was apparently so easy in Japan. It was a Japan only game that they had to release an expert mode game 3 months later.
Not even a full year later. And it got a remake on the PS2. It's equally as bad. We need, I think it was more I guess the equivalent of a PS2 era HD port.
Oh, man.
It's not that great. And to this day, it's the only Ys game that hasn't been modernized. And if they could remake it in the Napishtim engine or something modernized like that Napishtim engine, I'd even accept it in an Ys 10 style in that engine. If they could remake it in that style, I would be incredibly happy because it has a good story. The story is great. I love the characters that are in it and the story that alongside it, but everything else, gameplay, music related, it needs to be fixed.
My hope
another non-fun game.
My hope is that if they're taking the time to port, or they've already ported Oath and Felghana to consoles, let's get that same company that's doing that to work on a remake for Kefin for Ys 5.
Yes,
but we'll see. It's a thing where these games from Nihom Falcom are actually getting more and more sales than they've ever gotten before. So that's why I can't rule it out. Really can't say no. But when we are talking about how this nearly killed the series, it was 8 years between 5 and 6, and there was a lot of uh, development staff changes within Nihon Falcom itself. Not even just between 5 and 6, but of course between 3 and 4, for example. But 5 and 6 especially. 6 came out in September 2003 for the PC, Japan only. We got it in February 2005 for the PS2 worldwide, and of course went on to go to the PSP and Steam and everything like that. But Ys 6, Ark of Napishtim, as Shinky was saying, this really started a really like its own engine of gameplay where it's not bump combat, it's not the awful clunkiness that is Kefin or just the ridiculous stick wielding of Wanderers from Ys. With the Napishtim engine, we would see 2 additional games follow that, Oath and Felghana, Ys Origin, but just the whole sword play and the switching of swords and everything like that. My thought is it felt like Chrysalis for the NES, except Chrysalis on how it should have been if they ever decided to make a remake for that, where switching swords on the fly and the story is actually compelling. And honestly, you can parallel that to a lot of the goings on with the real world here within that time frame, because of course Adol's world is a parallel for our world here, but just with its own unique nomenclature and set of names and everything. Just and then we're back to the music being just absolutely phenomenal, and just the exploration of this island that, of course, it's Adol, and he gets shipwrecked at, if memory serves me correctly.
All the time.
I would say this at least is an A tier game, but let me know, what are your thoughts on this, Shinky?
Ys 6, I would put it as a high A, low S. Like, honestly, it's up there as one of my favorites. But that's just the gameplay style. Like, I love how the Napishtim engine and how everything works. It's very fast paced. It's very arcadey, and it flows so well. And I'm hoping at one point Falcom thinks that it's a good idea to give us an Ys 6 memoir like we're getting for Oath of Felghana.
Yes.
Because I went from playing because I originally I've got 3 versions already of Ys memoir, Oath and Felghana. When I played the Switch version last year, which I actually reviewed, and it was like, this is great. And then I went to go play Ys 6, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is a huge upgrade. Like, just visually. Like, it was amazing. Like, but like, that's not to say Ys 6 is bad. It's just, you can tell, like, Oath and Felghana has kind of ironed out a lot of the kinks in the system, because Ys 6 feels slower.
And one of the things that I have to say, I'm keeping it high A tier and keeping it out of the S tier, is some of the sword and jump hijinks with this, because there's a specific technique that you have to learn, to where it's like a sword slash jump sword slash to be able to move and like land correctly at just like make a long distance run jump thing, and trying to perfect that. Especially if you're playing on PC, because that's where I played, and if you're unlucky enough to not have a controller for some reason, trying to do that with a keyboard, just a keyboard and arrows and everything, that gets to be quite painful.
Yeah, no, I played it with a controller on the PC. I tried it on the PSP, and like initially when I played it, I tried it on PSP and I stopped because those load times are atrocious.
Oh,
a little bit better on the PS2 as well. But I will say, if you want to play it you should play it on the PS2 at one point, or at least watch the cutscenes, because they are comedy gold. They're hilarious.
Yes.
The voice acting is terrible. The CG looks awful, and I'm pretty sure there's this guy that has a thing for Adol.
The name's Ladok. So how about it? Let's discover the edge of the world together.
It's great. I love it. But if you're going to play E6, the PC version is better because they actually introduced a lot of new features, like quality of life features, like teleporting. You can teleport using the world map. Before then, if you play it on like the PS2 or if you play it on the PSP, you have to walk, and there's so
Oh.
much backtracking. You could probably save yourself like 3 to 4 hours by playing the PC version.
So that'd be something where if they did a memoir version, they would retain all of that stuff that's on the PC Steam, and then just even refine it that much more to what we've got with Oath and Felghana.
Yeah.
What I want to see, and this one ended up being like a personal favorite for me, was Ys 7, the game with no name, literally only game without a subtitle.
Yeah.
This one released September of '09 on the PSP and finally made it to PC Steam in 2017. This is the start of Shinky's oh so favorite, did I say favorite? I meant not so favorite, party system. But as Shinky alluded to earlier, we finally got Dogi. We got Dogi as a party member in a playable member of the party at that. I like the anime aesthetics, especially how like the profiles almost kind of reminds me of like early Persona style, or maybe like proto Persona style pictures. And then the soundtracks was just fantastic, and the story beats. What are your thoughts on E7?
Well, first of all, I would give it a low A. It's not. I like it more than Celceta, but not as much as everything else. It's great. I'm just trying to think. Like, it's not. Like I said, I don't really care for the party system. It has things that bother me, and I feel it's a huge downstep as far as the Ys games go. I mean, again, coming off of playing the Napishtim engine games, like that's like a super high bar to reach, right? So, I like the characters. It's very balanced, but it's hard.
Yes,
Like it's probably one of the hardest Ys games I've ever played.
in a way, a lot of the bosses, the bosses especially, I remember legitimately like I'm like, this is hard. Like the bosses are difficult. You like you kind of how you met advised earlier, where you learn their patterns and everything. But even just learning their patterns, that won't always save you. Sometimes, if that fails, you might have to grind a little bit. But
Yes, that's the thing about Ys too. So you can be struggling on a boss, but if you gain 1 or 2 levels, it'll make a world of difference. So
yes.
it makes it very accessible. Like it's more commonly in like E6 and Oath and Felghana. Like there's like even recently, like I think I was playing on Nightmare, and I was struggling on this boss. I gained 2 or 3 levels, and at that point I was no longer struggling at all.
Nice.
It makes a world of a difference. E7's the same way, but it is still very difficult. So yeah, I would give it a low A. The thing is, like, I feel most of these games belong in that A, B, S range, just because they're all so good.
Yeah, and there's a part of me like, can I sell you to put it here or here? Any way I could convince you to move it up to here or here, because I like it and enjoy it so much.
No, I can't. I can't put it higher than Origin. I like Origin way more.
Okay, so let's compromise and put E7 here.
Yeah, that seems about right. Yeah, it's a really good game. Like it's even better on the PC. I played it originally on the PSP. It looks so much nicer on the PC.
Yeah, that's how I played it as well. The models and everything absolutely look blocky, almost like Final Fantasy VII, but on a PS2 style of aesthetic, but it works.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's what happens with upscaling, right? If you upscale something that's very polygon, it's going to happen.
so now we're starting to get down to the last three games, and they of course are the most recent. And again, sticking with the party system, although with a certain twist with the last one, but we're going to be talking about one of the most popular ones, I feel, and that's going to be Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. And I'm going to put it here in S tier. That's
Easily, easily,
my thought
easily S tier.
my thought process. What are your thoughts though to start off with Lacrimosa of Dana?
So, Ys 8 takes place after Ys 5, and it has a callback to it, which is I find very funny.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if many people know, but at the beginning on the ship, when it's getting shipwrecked and you're getting attacked by the giant squid, Dogi throws a weapon to Adol. That's a legendary weapon from Ys 5, the Sacred Blade of Isios. And I was like, really? Nobody's going to get this. But Ys 8 is another one of those games that does pretty much everything perfect. It uses the party system, but even despite the party system, I would still give it S tier. It does things in post playthroughs where you can totally neglect that whole party system. You get an accessory that gives you all types of attacks, so you don't have to worry about it. I mean, that's a second playthrough kind of thing, but like the characters are great. Like Adol as usual is great, and then you have Dana. She's like a perfect contrast to Adol, right?
Yeah.
And then like the exploration around the island, it's done in a way where if you want to access the optional content, you have to explore the island to its extent. But if you just want the story, you can just focus on story. And you're not forced to do all the exploration. Which, I mean, I consider that sacrilege when it comes to Ys. But, because, you know, that's what it's all about. The Ys games are about exploring the new region that you're in. But, I mean, if you just want to get the story, which in itself is amazing. I really love the story of Ys 8.
Yeah, and like, it's a story that is really nuanced, like and deep too. If you can kind of like, I really appreciate how the Lacrimosa itself is representative of all the individuals whom precede it, and the method of it represents that particular individual, and it just keeps going back and back. And one of the things that I thought was really fun was that it almost felt like a series of movies all combine one together. Like it's the beach into one as one, and then it becomes Jurassic Park, then it becomes Ghost Ship, then it becomes Evolution, and just it's just all of these different type of movies, except you're still Adol, you're still the party, you know everybody. And again, the soundtrack for this is absolutely it's a baller soundtrack.
Sunshine Coastline is amazing. It's so good.
I starting off with Oath and Felghana, I thought I shot myself in the foot because Oath and Felghana soundtrack is so good. And then I went to Ys 1 and 2, and that soundtrack, I'm like, oh, it's good. And then I went to 6, and I'm like, okay, this is good. And then Memories of Celceta, I'm like, okay, this is good. And I'm starting to worry because 7 is more of like the same with Celceta. I'm like, this is good. I'm like, am I going to get back to the high of highs that I had with Oath and Felghana? And that was Lacrimosa of Dana. That absolutely was.
The thing is, though, too, I'm talking about like the PS4 and beyond. On the Vita, a lot of these story sequences, like all of the sequences where you play as Dana, they don't exist. That was added in after the Vita version. So really? The Vita version came, so I think the Vita version came out in 2014 or 2015, and then the PS4 was like a director's cut. It came out after the fact, and they added content to it. So all of those Dana sequences, her whole dungeon, and the true ending of the game, they weren't in the game originally.
And that's crazy to think because it just adds so much to her and the overall story, and really gives some good background for Adol too.
Yeah, so it's an S game. It's up there. There's a reason why it's the most popular game in the series, and I blame Ys 8 for the reason why the series has gotten so mainstream over in the West. Like easily. If we didn't get Ys 8, like I feel like we probably wouldn't have gotten 9 and 10.
Yeah, and it's a definitely a good problem to have.
Well, just because, like it used to be Xseed and now it's NIS America that localizes them. And the translation for everything, this goes back for Falcom too, right? But like, that's the reason we haven't gotten Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2 put on the, PS5. Most likely, that's just an assumption. But yeah, like, and Ys 8 when it first got localized, I don't know if you remember the translation for it.
I
It
heard
was
it wasn't
ridiculous.
good.
The whole game got retranslated, revoiced. It was terrible.
Wow.
You
Good.
had a dungeon that was called the Big Hole. It was almost like it was a direct, like, machine translated. It was terrible.
Ugh.
Yeah,
That's
it was
awful.
really bad. It was really awful. It's just, but I'm glad that it did, and I'm glad that NIS has stepped up since that point. So I would say, one of the best Ys games, even to this date.
Yeah, hands down. I easily the best one of the best Ys.
But
So it's hard to go from such a high with the follow-up entry, Monstrum Nox, but I would say this is at least an A tier game. My thought on this is it's like the exact opposite of what we saw with Lacrimosa of Dana, where instead of being in this wide open island and everything like that, you're in a structured environment, and it's this whole castle town area. You're then given additional abilities to traverse how you want to almost like literally fly around like Spider-Man at some point of the game. But it's one of those things that you're still trapped in there. But one of the things that this expanded the world as a whole itself for me, and this is also the latest of the Ys series in the timeline, and I really appreciated that. I appreciated the whole expanse with that, the Rom Empire, and this essentially being the equivalent of like 19th century, 18th century Paris, France, and the aesthetics, the soundtrack, the Gothic style of everything. I loved that. Story was not as strong in my opinion, but the idea of the homunculi and the even just the duality with Adol itself. My thought is, see, Shinky, you might not agree with me. I want to put it up here. I would like to compromise, if you're good with it, to put it between these two. What are your thoughts?
it's a B.
Really?
I would say it's better than Celceta, but it's, so here's the thing. Ys 9 I feel is one of the weaker titles.
Really?
First thing first, so the way that they go ahead with the storytelling. This is the start of where they start to trailsify the Ys series.
Ooh.
Like, Ys has story, but there was too much of it in Monstrum Nox. Like, it's just where they just start talking and talking and talking, and it's all this fluff that has nothing to do with the story. Like, the story's good, but the amount of like useless dialogue that might be something, talking about trails, there's a whole other conversation. But I feel like there's Ys does have good stories, but usually it's like concise and to the point. Not, it's like, okay, this person is stuck in this cave, go rescue them, and then that's it. This, it's like it introduces characters multiple times in the story, and then it's frustrating to me. But I feel like it's also weak because it doesn't have the exploration. Like, you get to explore the catacombs, you get to explore the city, but the best way I can look at it is you're basically a caged rat, which I understand is, part of the story. But like, the thing that with Ys is you get to go out, you get to go and explore, you get to see like what's out in the world. But here you're stuck, and then they have those like invisible fences too that you can't go past even within the city. I don't like that. It bothers me. Now, the traversal, like all the Monstrum gifts, were great. I loved how vertical the exploration was in the city, but there wasn't much. So it doesn't get such a high point. But as you mentioned, the homunculi, that's actually the thing from Ys 5. That's another thing that I do like about Ys 9, is it is a fan service game. In the sense that if you've played Ys 1 to 8, you're going to get all these references. Like, there's an NPC that, like, almost, like, gets possessed almost by older Ys waifus, so we'll call them, and talks to Adol. Like, that's great. And it even happens in, like, the final boss as well. Like, you have them... So these little tiny things you wouldn't understand. You can still enjoy the game if you haven't played the previous games, but it's a nice callback for fans of the series. So, I mean, I would always suggest somebody play it, but I wouldn't... Like I said, you can play it as your first game in the series, but I wouldn't suggest it, because you'll get more out of it if you have a history with the series.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you there. And within Shinky's video, where he goes over the Ultimate Ys Series Starter Guide, he does say that. So make sure, again, we got the link in the description below, that you check that out. So should would you...
You know what? I can compromise.
And just
we could put it at the end of an A-. Because,
okay.
I mean, better than Celceta, but not as good as Ys 7 or 2.
Okay, well, that I do appreciate, because I've got there was a lot that I appreciated with 9, but one of the things with Lacrimosa that I would keep below Oath and Felghana were the raids, and the raids are back with 9, and it felt very samey to me, and I'm like, okay, so many of these raids, though thankfully it didn't seem like there were as many in 9 versus 8, so... Yeah,
raids don't bother me. They didn't. I enjoyed them. They're generally pretty simplistic, but no, the raids, they're not an issue to me. They're just kind of added on, it seems.
Yeah, like a tacked on thing.
Yeah, but it's better than in Ys 8, because Ys 8, it was like, okay, you need to go back now.
Yes.
These ones, it's like, okay, you're just using it to expand where you can go. If you want to do some exploration first, there's no sense of urgency for it, so it's totally fine.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Because I remember being, I want to explore the island. No, Dogi's calling us back. We gotta stop what the heck we're doing and defend the place. Like, oh,
yeah,
it felt
especially
like
if you haven't recently hit a teleport point, and you're like, oh, really,
really, dude. I gotta walk all the way back and deal with all these guys. Oh man.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, with Ys 10 Nordics, the newest one coming out this week as of the release of this video, this is one that I am very happy to have Shinky join us here, because Shinky has reviewed this, and make sure to check out his review again. The link for his video is within the description below, so make sure that you check that out to get his definitive view on this. I have played through the demo, so only just 3 chapters for me, but dude, I'm gonna have you take it away in just a second, but I played through the demo this week, and maybe in a day or two. I love that we get the ability to even get demos to carry existing progress, and I'm like, dude, I want more. I have to wait 10 days to continue playing this. Come on. What are your thoughts though, where Nordics belongs in the ranking, and just thoughts with this entry?
I would put it at the top of like high A. So as I was saying, like with Ys 9, Ys 10, it's very story heavy. The first 3 chapters of Ys 10 is dialogue after dialogue after dialogue, and it doesn't stop. It's like 3 or 4 hours within the first like 3 chapters where you're just talking forever. Like, I enjoy story, but again, it just keeps going. I was at the point where I was like, am I really going to enjoy this game if it's just going to be more talking than actual action RPG gameplay, right? Luckily, after chapter 3 or 4, it does mellow out. The game opens up and it lets you explore.
Oh, nice.
Which is nice. So the new gameplay style using Karja and Adol concurrently, I like the fact it feels almost like it's a crossover between the party system and the Napishtim engine. So there's no more attack types. I know a lot of people, it might be divisive to people because you no longer have a full party. And I know a lot of people, a lot of the fan base got into the series with the party system.
Oh, that's true, especially with 8.
Yes, I feel like 8 is the game that's what people know. And a lot of the older games, unless you play on PC, haven't been made available to the general public. So, or like recent, right? So, I mean, I really, really liked it. Like I played like 60 hours of it in 4 days. I did not put it down. I love that game. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is the naval combat. So I don't know who the genius is that thought, hey, let's give Adol a boat because, you know, his track history with boats is wonderful. But so he gets this busted up boat, and then so that's how you get from various areas in the game. You boat from island to island. When you first get this boat, it is slow. Like it doesn't move. It gets faster because you can upgrade it as you go on, but it's so I'm like, is this really going to be the whole game? I don't have the patience for this. But luckily you get like slipstreams later on, you get boosts, everything like that. So it gets a little bit better, but it can be rough. And those raids that, you know, you love so much, they're now done on boats. So the ship combat, I think there's 11 of them in the game, so not too many of them.
Oh, that's good.
But at the very beginning, luckily you have the chance to upgrade your boat. You upgrade your health, you upgrade your attack power, the different types of attacks that you get, all kind of stuff. They're fun, and they're like half on boat, half on foot.
And it sounds like the naval combat is at least better than the quadruple A's Skull and Crossbones, that Ubisoft game. Sounds like it's at least better than that.
I haven't played that. If I can compare it to anything, Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Is it like that level, you think? Or
it's pretty not as good as it, but it's still like that's the first thing it reminds me of.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and then like the combat is a lot of fun too, because like I said, you have your two characters. Unfortunately, they don't play too different. They're both, you know, one uses an axe, one uses a sword. The difference is one is Adol is more like oriented towards fire, where Karja is more oriented towards ice, and it's used in like for exploration as well. Like you can burn down vines or, you know, raise an ice pillar from water kind of thing. But overall, I would put it as a high A. I didn't mean for this to turn into like another review for it, but
no, it's definitely great information, especially with the game coming out this week. We want to know. I've yet to play the whole thing.
What I want to say is, if you didn't like the demo because you felt like it was all dialogue, which I know it's the first 3 chapters, and that's where the bulk of the dialogue is. Like you, after that, it's like at the end of a chapter, you have, you know, the big event at the end of the chapter kind of thing, right? But other than that, it's such a good game. The exploration is great. I like the whole dynamic between Karja and Adol, and I'll tell you now, Karja does get more likable. She's not crazy the whole game. But yeah, she does get more likable, and it does go into the typical, you know, historic whatever thing from that every Ys game gets.
Oh yeah.
You know, like big historic deity. It's not really a deity. I won't spoil it for you, but it does go into that. So it does feel like an Ys game, and it's so much fun.
Oh gosh.
What I will say, if you are going to play it, if you can play it on PS5 or PC, please do that. I tried playing the PS4 version earlier today, and I don't know if it's because I was running it off of an external hard drive, but It doesn't run very well. There's a lot of like hiccups in it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I would suggest, I don't know if it'll be patched out later, but it was very like, I'm confused because Falcom games generally are not like graphically intensive. It shouldn't be, and like I was playing it on a PS5 as well. So I don't know what's going on with it, but if you
And
can play it on PS5 or PC, you should.
I'd assume the Switch version is going to be exactly the same way.
Yeah, I pre-ordered the Japanese version when it came out last year, the collector's edition. It's exactly the same as the one that we're getting.
That's good. But at least
like with the backpack and everything, right?
Dude, I'm just so grateful. I know it's been a year, but like that it's only been a year that we're getting.
Yeah, I'm so happy about that. Like ever since NIS has taken it over, like there were times where we'd be waiting 3, 4, 5 years. Like I don't know if you were a Falcom fan back in the early 2010s, but I know that this is Ys video. But if you're a Trails fan, if you played the first Trails in the Sky, could you imagine after that cliffhanger waiting 4 years to figure out what happened? Like, I'm so glad we're like NIS is at a point where they can get like we're getting like we got Daybreak in what, June or July? We're getting Daybreak 2 in February.
Yes. Yeah. I know the 13th overall Trails. I think that just came out in Japan, but that's not going to be long or far behind either.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting to a point where we're going to get Ys games and Trails games worldwide releases at this point, because they were even saying like we're okay with like before, like years ago, they didn't give the script to localizing teams beforehand. Now they're doing that. So if we can start getting Ys games at a worldwide release, I will no longer have to buy 2 different copies of them, because that's what I tend to do now. Because I really enjoy playing the Ys series, and it's something that you're going to enjoy.
Yeah, before we wrap things up here, I do want to mention that, and I'll ask you, how concerned are you with the Trails in the Sky remake supposedly being translated or worked on by Xseed again, and not Nice America?
From what I understand, it's being done in-house.
I hope I heard wrong. I hope I did.
Oh, that's really hard to say, because a lot of the translators and localizers that were on the team back when, say, Trails in the Sky was originally localized, they're no longer there. They've moved on to better things. I don't know what to expect. I also heard that they're just basically taking the original script and like copy pasting it in there.
Oh, I'd be okay with that, honestly.
I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. I mean, if they do that, great. I don't have any complaints. But
because the game looks so good
it does look good, but I'm more concerned at the fact that they don't have plans to do 2 and 3 unless 1 does well. I feel like that's basically like bribing us. You have to buy this game or else you're not getting the sequel and the further sequel. I'm gonna get it regardless.
Yeah, I will too, and it's one of those things that it's like Estelle is Bestel. It'll be time for Ultraviolence. We'll have to get it.
Yeah, Estelle is probably is my favorite protagonist as far as that series goes. But
amazing.
I also really don't like Green. But anyways,
but
again. Conversation.
Yes, and that probably will be a conversation that we will be having at a future video or a different video. But talking about Ys, now that we've ranked them, we've got the best of the best, and as Shinky had mentioned, we're top heavy on the A and maybe a little bit of the B, but you really see some S, because we generally like this series, but it's a series that's done well when it's given the TLC to do so. But let us know in the comments section below what you think of the entries in the series. Would you rank them how we did? Would you put it in a different order? Definitely let us know. We'd love to start a conversation with you. But a huge shout out to Shinky for joining us here today. We really appreciate it. We've got his channel and his most recent Ys videos in the description below. Shinky, any parting shots, any final words that you'd like to leave us?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I really actually enjoyed it. I'm always ready to talk about Ys. And yeah, that's about it, I guess. Yeah, just thank you for having me, and I'm willing to do it again if wanted.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely going to be tapping you when I start doing some trails discussion. But that's another day, another story for another day. But thank you for joining. And thank you, our audience, as well, for joining. And we hope that you have a great day.